All right, Ethan, welcome to the BlockHash podcast. How you doing?
Hey, I am well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. Where are you from?
I am from Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada. How do you like it there?
It's very cold. It was okay the last few days, but it just started to turn cold. And, when things turn cold, they just turn cold so quickly.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I know. I mean, I would probably turn into a popsicle there. I'm not meant for it.
Oh, me neither. Hate the cold.
Oh, yeah, it's difficult sometimes. But that's cool, though. And I know that you have a book that's coming out. It's coming out tomorrow, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Very excited.
Me too. Me too. We'll definitely jump into that and talk about it. I have a lot of questions for you, but before we do, tell me more about yourself and your background. How did you get into the line of work that you do now? Journalism, being an author, maybe in crypto and stuff like that. What's your story?
So I write this column in a Canadian newspaper called the Financial Post. And I used to work at Reuters. I was there for 2 years. Before that, I was at the Toronto Star. And we all contain multitudes. So I am also a crypto investor. I invested in Bitcoin in 2013. And that's how I got sucked into this whole rabbit hole of this space. And thus I ended up writing that book.
Yeah, that's actually very early, 2013. Was there anything in particular that, caught your interest about that?
Yeah, so I basically started when I first heard about Bitcoin, it was on the dark web. My friends and I, we were there for just no damn reason, but we found it so interesting. That was before Silk Road was busted, and there's just so many interesting things you can buy there, and that's how I noticed that how the people transacted that it was with Bitcoin, and I think lots of people may not agree with that use case, but the reason that Bitcoin is being used there is because it's a purely user to user kind of interaction. And the funds, theoretically, at least, they can't be frozen. And, there's a certain value and a certain power in that. And I think I saw that back then, but I definitely did not see it to a huge degree. But like I didn't see it with a 10, maybe or 4. It took a while. And it took almost a whole year from when I first heard of Bitcoin to when I actually bought it.
Yeah, that was actually one of the first times I heard about Bitcoin too. I was actually wondering for a second, what are you doing on the dark web, dude? But no, it was such a big deal. I remember when I was in college, a lot of that stuff, like Silk Road, for example, made Bitcoin like super, super popular, and they were huge at the time. And yeah, that's definitely how I really got introduced to Bitcoin. Unfortunately, watching it get that notoriety in a bad way, but it's definitely evolved quite a bit over time. And then, what did you do after that?
Well, so 2013, that was so I one of the reasons I ended up actually investing and what was that I was writing about Bitcoin in this little newspaper in Eastern Canada. I was right after my second year of university. I was interning. I interviewed this guy called Anthony Diorio.
Hmm.
And we know him now as one of the co-founders of Ethereum, but back then there was no Ethereum. He had started this thing called the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada, and I talked with him, and I think that was the first time I talked with someone about Bitcoin, someone who actually knew what they were talking about.
Hmm.
And so toward the end of 2013, I first invested in Bitcoin, and then it just fell 50%. And I was just thinking, well, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all bought into it, maybe at the wrong time, or held it for a long time and watched it go through these crazy volatility cycles. But that's kind of how the industry works until it gets a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more stabilized. But so you have a book coming out tomorrow. It's kind of based on crypto and stuff. What's the gist of it that you can give away?
Well, it follows the adventures of someone who got in at around 2013
Hmm.
throughout this space until now, and it's nonfiction, but it's meant to read like a novel. It's journalism. It's based on reporting, and I like to think it's ultimately driven by plot and characters. And among the highlights, I was in North Korea with Virgil Griffith, who recently pleaded guilty to helping North Korea evade sanctions through crypto. And that was a hell of a trip.
Yeah, that's got to be interesting. So you went to Pyongyang, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What was that like? What was the experience? Did it feel weird? Was it any different than, people say it is? And then I know there's like a bit of a crypto perspective from what was going on there too. What can you share without giving away, too much from the book?
Yeah, it was definitely weird, and it was not what I expected, because the conference was kind of advertised as a chance for people to know about North Korea and crypto. At least that was how I perceived it. I thought I would be there to, take in presentations by the North Koreans, because as we all know, North Korea has been accused of doing lots of shady stuff with crypto. I thought I'd get a first-hand look into what was happening, but unexpectedly, when we got there, we were told that we were supposed to be presenting to the North Koreans. And I know there were like a few among us, like one or two, who they were actual crypto experts. And when they went into North Korea, they were expecting to present. But most of us, we were quite surprised by that ask. And ultimately, I declined. But I didn't get to hear from a single North Korean with respect to the country's crypto developments. And our North Korean minders were telling us that the country doesn't know anything about crypto, which it feels a bit like a performance.
Yeah, how did you actually get into North Korea? I know it's different for Americans, but maybe it's easier as a Canadian, or maybe it's because were going there for a specific reason. But how did you get in?
Well, it's actually not that hard to go to North Korea. But these days, amid the pandemic, I think the whole country is closed. And recently, there was a case of this young American guy back when Americans could still go. So now Americans can't go because he went there. He got accused of stealing some poster or something. And it turned out very badly for him. And he ended up dying upon his return to the US. So Americans were banned as a result. But generally, to go to North Korea, you can't go in by yourself, but they have these tourism companies. And for us, I think the trip was directly tied to the, I guess, organizers of the conference. So had to get a visa from Beijing. And one thing about North Korea is that the North Korean airlines, their planes are so old that they're banned from Europe and they can't fly long distances. So the only way into North Korea, the only way in via air, you either fly in from China or you fly in from Russia.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I imagine their planes are pretty old because they're not really no one's really to fly in, except if you're like China or Russia, which have a bit more of a stronghold there. But no, that's interesting. And you had the opportunity to, did you meet with Virgil as well in North Korea, or have a chance to interview him, or what was that interaction that you had?
Mm-hmm. Well, so first, I would say that I went into North Korea purely in a personal capacity. I did not expect that trip to make the news in this way. So I wasn't expecting to write about it, but clearly in a way that nobody expected. But I did spend, I guess, a whole week with Virgil in close company. So there were only 8 of us, 8. That's another thing. I thought the conference was quite big, but it turns out there were just 8 foreigners.
Yeah, that's a tiny conference. Can you enlighten people a little bit on who Virgil is that might not know? Because I mean, crypto, the history of crypto, even though it's only been like 10, 11, 12 years, there's so much that goes on that it kind of like goes over everyone's head. So tell us a little bit about Virgil and like what kind of went down there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And before I do that, I would like to say, what you said about so much happening in crypto, despite it only being 10 years. I fully agree with that statement. I think there's this quote from this Russian guy. There are weeks where nothing happens, but weeks where also decades happen. And I think crypto is that kind of space.
That definitely makes sense.
And anyway, Virgil, he's the head of special projects, or he was head of special projects at the Ethereum Foundation. So he's quite a big shot in the crypto world. And I think among the people, the 8 of us who went there, he was the only notable person in the crypto world. And so, I think that's possibly a reason like why he had caught the government's attention in this way.
Yeah, was he actively trying to help the North Korean government use blockchain in terms of like avoiding sanctions and stuff like that, or would they just taking ideas from him, or what was happening?
Yeah, see, I don't think that he had any malicious intent, and the defense has been saying that what went on in North Korea, what was said at the conference, it was simply publicly available information. You know, you could look it up on the Wikipedia page, and having been there, I tend to agree with that. It actually wasn't very interesting stuff. It was like crypto 101, but the prosecution was saying that doesn't matter. And ultimately, the charge against Virgil is that basically two things. One is that he had the intention of helping North Korea, and he acted on that intent. And intent is a bit subjective, but I guess given what has happened and the fact that he had talked willingly to investigators, they have a lot of information on him, and they even have a recording of the conference. And so I think at the end of the day, what he was feeling in his heart, his intentions, they don't really matter. There's so much evidence against him, and he evidently broke the letter of the law.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to kind of debate because, North Korea has definitely been crippled completely by sanctions. And I can understand from one perspective why wanting to lend a hand to, help people there, especially if you're there and you're seeing people struggle because of it, wanting to help them find a way out, maybe through blockchain. Then at the same time, it's like, yeah, do you really want to help a regime that isn't doing a whole lot of good things right now? It's got to be really complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think at the heart of it, this trip, it was a very surface level thing. And I think for all of us, we thought it was just a nice little adventure. And I don't think anyone, particularly Virgil, actually thought that he was going to effect any great geopolitical change.
Right. I bet he didn't think so either. Do you think North Korea is still exploring blockchain in some ways? Maybe even whether it's for sanctions or for other purposes, do you think that they're probably, looking at it as a means to grow as a country?
Yeah, I think absolutely. But I think they're still quite far from really harnessing crypto and blockchain in the way that the US fears. So what we've read about North Korea, what they've been doing so far, they've been stealing a lot of coins, and I think it's a great way for North Korea to make money because the state is engaged in lots of criminal enterprises. They used to be like they used to smuggle drugs. They used to print like fake American money. So, and I bet stealing crypto, hacking, it's a lot more profitable than what they've been doing in the past. And transactions are irreversible. They take it, the Americans can't get the money back. But if they truly want to use crypto in international trade to buy and sell things with other countries because they're barred from dealing with North Korea, I don't think we're there yet. But I think that is really what the U.S. government fears.
Yeah, I mean, that would create a lot of fears for a lot of people. Do you think the people, you said that they really didn't understand crypto and blockchain and Bitcoin when you were there at the time. Do you think that they maybe have a little bit better of understanding of it and maybe have a bit more of a desire to use it or maybe want to mine it or trade it or maybe even see their government offer them the ability to use Bitcoin more? Did you get any sense of that?
Well, not among the people I talked to, but I don't doubt that I was shown only like a very small and carefully curated part of the country because North Korean hackers, they are world famous and they are known among the best hackers in the world. I'm sure there are the people in North Korea who are really well versed in this. We just didn't see them.
No, I believe that. I was actually talking to a friend the other day about the movie, what was it, The Interview with James Franco and Seth Rogen, and how they tried to hack Sony to bring the movie down because it had a portrayal of Kim Jong-un that wasn't favorable. So I believe that they definitely have some very good hackers there. From I guess from your experience, seeing all this and now being an author in the crypto space as well, what's your opinion on blockchain? Do you really like it as a technology? Do you think it has a lot of good implications for the world going forward? Do you think it's or do you have a different perspective on it, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I still hold crypto, so I'm a believer in this, and I think I would tell this story. It's actually not my story. Alex Gladstein first told it, but I think he has first-hand knowledge of this. That when Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, when a lot of refugees, because of how bad their financial infrastructure is and how bad their economy is, how bad the currency is, when they leave the country, they take nothing but the clothes on their back. But there was this young woman who had Bitcoin, and she memorized her passphrase, and it was a torturous journey through Iran and Turkey, and her ship sank in the Mediterranean, and she really had nothing. But because she memorized her passphrase, she was able to start a new life in Germany. So, and I think that underscores, I think, the fundamental value proposition of all this.
Yeah, I've heard tons of stories about that. I live in Latin America in Colombia, and a lot of people already know. Venezuelans have been incredibly displaced and have been affected by the regime and the hyperinflation in Venezuela, and a lot of them have only been able to move their value and pick up and move their lives because of Bitcoin, and be able to have family from other countries send them money and send them support. And there's a lot of stories like that. I know with Syrian refugees, there's stories like that too. It's a very interesting use cases from a humanity perspective, I guess, too.
Yeah, and I'm always fascinated by such stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh.
those are the best ones. What about? Let me ask you about Bitcoin too. What do you think? I'm sure maybe you hold some Bitcoin as well. Do you think it's a good potential currency? Do you think it's a good potential store of value, or how do you view it? 'Cause it's matured a lot over the last, I don't know, 11, 12 years now. It's been around for a very long time. Everyone knows about it, and I think it's actually about to hit an all-time high again in terms of price, and it's getting a lot of adoption, at least in the U.S. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Well, I'm very optimistic about the Lightning Network, and I think that's one of the things that will actually help Bitcoin become a currency. Because prior to that, I think the prospect of Bitcoin being a medium of exchange, as Satoshi Nakamoto had intended, that ship had sailed. But I think with the Lightning Network, that ship is coming back. And I also I want to go back to what you said just now about the state of affairs in Latin America, because I remember a headline, I think it was just from a couple of days ago. Argentina says it's going to freeze grocery prices for 90 days. And in what kind of a world will we have a headline like that? Just really runaway inflation. The government has to freeze prices in 90 days. And so I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, but I think a great part of the price appreciation, when we saw it rise close to all-time highs recently, it's not all because of the rise of Bitcoin. It's because of the fall of the dollar.
Yeah, the dollar is it's obviously fighting a lot of inflation fears right now. Debt ceiling just got raised, and debt fears are out of control as well. When the dollar's hurting, it's hurting a lot of countries, especially in Latin America. I have stories about Argentina too. I remember going there a few years ago, and most people, they would only take dollars or Bitcoin for anything, whether you're paying for an Uber or paying for food at a restaurant or staying at a hotel. They wouldn't take Argentinian pesos because they were very quickly becoming worthless. So I've seen that environment in person, and it's kind of sad, but it does make you very hopeful that Bitcoin could help solve some of those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not just in Latin America. I was in a few, I guess, Southeast Asia, some countries there like Cambodia. They don't take their own currency. They only want American dollars from you.
Yeah, that's also true. I haven't been there yet, but hopefully I'll get to go to Asia at some point in the future. It's definitely on my list. When your book comes out tomorrow, can people buy it in Bitcoin or crypto?
Aha. So I actually have a long story about this because lots of people have asked me that question, and so I tried to see where I can buy the book with Bitcoin, and no bookseller I know takes Bitcoin. And I do know that Amazon in the US, if you use PayPal, you can pay with crypto wherever you use PayPal. So that might be a one path. And I bought a list of every single independent bookstore in the US and Canada. I sent an email to every single one of them asking if they will take Bitcoin. And I asked my publisher. Nobody said yes. So eventually I set up my own portal on my own website. So you can pay, you can buy it with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can do it, unfortunately. I'm surprised most publishers aren't doing it. So there's a lot of crypto books coming out. But it'll probably change in the future. But yeah, post it on your website, warehouse them and sell them that way in crypto. I'll buy a book that way too, for crypto. It's always fun. I like paying for things with Bitcoin. You don't get to do it very often. Cool. And then, other than that, where else can people find your book? 'Cause it'll be out in Canada, obviously. I'm from the US. Will it be anywhere else distributed? Any other countries or provinces?
Yeah, worldwide. So you will be able to
Okay.
buy it wherever you buy your books. But I would say that if you hate Amazon, consider a local independent bookstore. So I don't hate Amazon that much. I'm fine with shopping on Amazon, but as much as possible, I try to support local businesses.
Hate Amazon. Do you Canadians hate Amazon?
Well, it's I feel Amazon is part of this whole big tech dominance that's
Yeah.
it's taking over our lives. You know that story Vitalik told about Blizzard taking away his warlock spell?
No, I haven't heard that one. Tell me that.
Oh, so he loved playing World of Warcraft, and
Hmm.
he worked very hard to be able to cast a spell to his character. He needs to like level up significantly to do that, spend time and effort. And if your friends play World of Warcraft, if you can cast that spell, your friends view you favorably. It's very important. But one day Blizzard just took away that spell from him. And in his words, he cried himself to sleep. And that's one of the reasons he started Ethereum. So I think the blockchain, what it seeks to do, to democratize the internet. And I know we're not there yet, but I do think these tech giants, they are starting to have too much power.
Yeah, that's a good motivational factor to start the world's biggest, blockchain out there. That's cool. I actually didn't know that. Yeah, I get it with big tech and Amazon and stuff like that. In the US, we love it because it makes life super, super efficient, convenient, but it's scary too. They're everywhere. They control everything. They're even taking over banking, which is scary. At some point, you'll just be able to do everything through Amazon and Facebook and Google and Microsoft. And yeah, there's some fears there. Hopefully we have a bit more of a future that's decentralized and, blockchain plays a bit of a role in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, Ethan, thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast, explain, your story and, your trip to North Korea and your experience there. Talk about blockchain, Bitcoin a little bit, and obviously your book that's coming out tomorrow. Very excited for it. Would love to have you again in the future. If you ever do another book, or if you ever have another experience or take a crazy trip, just let me know.
Absolutely. It was a great pleasure. Thank you.
Anytime. See ya.
All right, bye.